Let's now go to line number one and say good morning to the former Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, Roger Grimes. Good morning, Roger. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Paddy. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. Long time no see. How are you?
Good. I hadn't called you since you took over the big show in the morning, as I call it, but I know you're having a great time. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things, Paddy. First, let me say thanks to all the well-wishers, by the way. I'm just back home after the open heart surgery I had a week ago Thursday, and everything is going great, and had a lot of people trying to get in touch with me and wish me well. But I tell you and that's the base on which I called, because I was out of commission completely for a week or so in the hospital, and not really well enough to listen to the radio or read the newspaper and so on. But when I came to after it was all over and got back home, it seemed like somebody was doing me a big favor, because lots of times laughter is the best medicine for this stuff. And it seemed like before I went in the hospital a couple of weeks ago, and when I came out, it was almost like I woke up to like a Monty Python movie or something that the Wonderful Grand Band would have done back in the 60s and 70s, I woke up to a whole new world politically in Newfoundland and Labrador. And, of course, I live in Virginia Waters, where the by-election is going on now to replace Kathy Dunderdale. Mm-hmm. And Danny Breen is a neighbour of mine. He lives just around the corner. Kathy Dunderdale lives just down over the hill, that kind of thing. Kathy Bennett doesn't live too far away. I'm not sure exactly where Sheila O'Leary lives, but they've been coming to the door and so on, of course. And I was amused by Danny Breen. I heard his quote saying, well, the reason you should vote for me is because Tom Marshall, by the way, is doing a good job. And I said, sure, what am I waking up to at all? Tom Marshall is one of the 33 PCs that doesn't even want to be the leader. Like, if he wanted to be the premier, he could be the premier from now till the next election, but he doesn't want the job. He's a nice guy, by the way. I know him well. I like him, and he is Mr. Nice Guy Tom Marshall, but he refuses to be the premier full time. And what I've noticed in what he's been saying, because the candidate that's knocking on my door, Danny Breen, is saying, since Tom Marshall's been the premier, he's doing a good job, so that's a reason to vote for me. But he is disappearing because he doesn't want the job. Steve Kent doesn't want the job. Derek Daly doesn't want the job. Darren King doesn't want the job. The group out in Central where I come from, Kevin O'Brien and that group, Susan Sullivan, they don't want the job. Nobody wants the job. They're all running away from it at 100 miles an hour. But Danny says, Danny Breen says, vote for me because Tom is doing a good job. And I find it really strange and amusing. And the other thing, Paddy, that's happening in my district where I'm going to vote in a week or 10 days is this. Wayne Bennett, who's one of the three candidates for the leader, one of the three guys who will be the premier in a couple of months' time once the PC straighten out their leadership, he's down in Cuba having a good time, texting and faxing back and twittering and so on and saying, by the way, Danny Breen is not supporting me, he's supporting Frank Coleman, so I don't think you should vote for him. I want to be the PC leader. He's the candidate. I don't think you should vote for him, and I believe Sheila O'Leary is the best candidate. And I'm saying, did I miss something? I know I was heavily drugged and sedated for 3 or 4 days undergoing a major operation. And I woke up and I said, I really must have missed something because the whole world has gone, it stood on its ear. It's turned upside down. And Mr. Nice Guy, Tom Marshall, I've watched and listened for this, Paddy, and one thing I've noticed is missing. Each time with the Bill 29 review, he says, we want to listen to the people. We're doing this because the people are asking for it. When they talked about the Oversight Committee yesterday, he said his answer in the House of Assembly was, when he finally addressed it was, the people have asked for this, so we're going to do it. But on no occasion has he or anybody in the PC government ever admitted that we were wrong before. They're only doing it now in a bold-faced, brazen attempt to try to get back into good graces of people because they realize how desperately they've fallen in the polls, and they're going to try to ride Nice Guy Tom up a few steps, try to hang on to a seat in the district that I live in, and try to get back into good graces without ever apologizing to the people of the province for the things that they obviously did wrong, that the people generally, 80% of them, by the way, in a poll on NTV yesterday said they still don't think the government is open. So that's the kind of world that I'm living in, and I must say I find it good for my health recovery because it's amusing, it's funny, it's entertaining, and it's true to form. There's never a dull moment in politics in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, I think that's no true words have ever been spoken. First off, I'm certainly glad to hear you're on the road to recovery, and I'll see you around down the rink and whatnot.
Oh, for sure. Looking forward to it.
When it comes to the PC leadership contest and nobody inside the current caucus wanted to take a run at being the leader and de facto the premier, if some of the PC's hangover and ills is that they've had a rough couple of years, what about the political strategy of having someone who is not a current caucus member be better suited to lead the party, that they wouldn't bring the baggage that's left behind by Miss Dunderdale, Premier Marshall, Premier Williams and otherwise? What about the political strategy of a fresh face?
Good strategy, Paddy, from this point of view. If they had what the people of the province generally thought was a really star candidate like Danny Williams was 10 years ago. But you've got Mr. Barry out there that I don't think any of the caucus members are going to support the man that said you could dump a bucket of something over their heads and they wouldn't know it because they're that stunned and everything else, but I still want to be your leader. So he insulted them all. So I don't think that new face is going to impress anybody. Then you have the new face of Mr. Bennett, who has already, I think, not impressed anybody by sitting back in Cuba, running his campaign by twittering and tweeting and sending out a few little photo ops and encouraging people to vote for the NDP in a by-election for a party that he wants to lead. So you're left with Mr. Coleman. And all I've heard from Mr. Coleman so far is that he, too, by the way, says he doesn't think there was too much wrong with Bill 29. He thinks he will accept the recommendations. He doesn't think there was too much wrong with it. I don't believe he actually knows what was in it. So he's got a long ways to go to sell himself as any great new outside leader that's going to capture the imagination. If you had a star in waiting already, because I've seen it twice recently. We all have in Newfoundland and Labrador. Danny Williams was a perfect example. He had been on the scene, well known all over the province for a decade, had been sort of in and around the fringes of politics for a lifetime before he ever actually committed, had been encouraged to run and sought out several times before by the PCs, and finally ran. And to my view, in many cases, a lot of what he did was a good job, and he did it the way he wanted to do, which is what you should anyway as the Premier. But then, and we also had with the Liberals, we had Brian Tobin when he came back was Captain Canada, saving the fisheries, saving the turbot, known all over the country, known all around the world, and was a well-known, charismatic political figure. But I don't see that in Bill Barry, Wayne Bennett, or in Mr. Coleman. So, the strategy of a fresh face, distance yourself from the crowd that's in there, works. But you also got to have someone that people can gravitate to and would, automatically take to as someone that they see naturally as a leader in waiting. And I think that quality is lacking in all three of their candidates.
As far as Bill 29 goes, Roger, of course, this independent committee, who I think all stripes will agree that there's three top quality people, and that could
outstanding, Paddy.
It could absolutely could take away some of the sting that the PCs have to bear so far as Bill 29. And plus, Ed Ring, the Privacy Commissioner here, he also doesn't see the problems that the vast majority of people do with Bill 29. So that's one thing. When it comes to Mr. Coleman and Barry and Bennett, and whether or not they're going to be the charismatic leader required, the interesting concept that's coming out of the Liberals and NDP camp is that this is in direct comparison to how the Liberals did it with their open, inclusive 20,000 people selected white ball. They say the fix is in for Mr. Coleman. You participated in a delegated convention. Do you think it's a reasonable and or fair assessment of what the PCs are going to undertake here to select their leader, and just describing it completely as the fix is in because you've lived it?
Oh, well, I don't think there has to be any fix to put in. The fact of the matter is that they do have 33 sitting members at the present time who obviously must have some influence in their own district and will have some influence in selecting the delegates. I can't imagine many of the 33 going out and encouraging people to vote for Mr. Barry, who, so it's a repeat of what I just said before, Paddy. There won't be much of a fix. I think it's a done deal already. It's a foregone conclusion that Mr. Barry distanced himself from the caucus and from anyone that they will encourage to vote and become delegates by saying they were all so stupid that they wouldn't know a bucket of something if you shoved it over their heads.
Yeah, which I guess that's a different set of circumstances than the fix being in, isn't it? If it's the words that held against Mr. Barry,
so you won't need a fix in my view, because there's no contest. And here's Mr. Bennett, who shot himself in the foot by saying, "I want to lead you guys, but by the way, don't vote for our candidate in the current by-election." vote for the NDP because she's the best candidate.
Yeah.
So I don't think that endeared him to anybody. I don't see how he's going to now go and face these 33 members in the caucus and their supporters and the people that they will bring from their districts. So there's 33 out of 48. I mean, that's 75% of the delegates and the supporters already, I think, completely and totally turned off from 2 of the 3 potential candidates, and it leaves them as a no choice but to go with Mr. Coleman. So whether he's good, bad, charismatic, or indifferent, I think he's already won the contest.
And that could very well be, and I guess the proof will be in the pudding here now, come when they select their new leader. You talk about the race in Virginia Water. Some people refer to it as a bellwether of what's to come in 2015. I'm not so sure. I think it's going to boil down to you, like Danny, Cathy, or Sheila. But when it comes to forming the government in 2015, Roger, people are, of course, disenchanted with the Tories. The polls are proving it. The downward trend is evident, and the Liberals' upward spike is also very evident. But at some point here, the Liberals, who have been pretty thin on policy and have been running basically on Bill 29, Muskrat Falls, the Tories are bad. Do we currently see enough, in your opinion, from the Liberal Party to position himself as a government with solutions and new policies? Because currently I don't think so. What do you think?
Not at this point, Paddy, and I think here's another interesting sidebar to that, though. There's another question that has to be answered yet, and the Liberals do know that they will have to put more meat on the bones as, a government in waiting rather than just criticize the other crowd. That's always the next shoe that has to fall, which hasn't really been done to any great extent yet, so I agree with you on that. But here's another question. Play out my scenario. Mr. Coleman will win. He will be the leader of the PC party, and he will be the premier. The question then is, will he seek a seat in the House of Assembly right away? Because he easily can. Tom Marshall wants to go home. He's said it 1,000 times. Tom can resign. Mr. Coleman is from the same area. He can run in a by-election and go into the House as a sitting premier. Or will he sit on the sidelines and say, well, I want to organize for another few months before I call an election. I'll leave nice guy Tom in there because everybody likes him. And listen here, it's hard to find, and there's no reason to find, a bad word to say about Tom Marshall. He's the epitome of a nice guy. But he doesn't want the job. He wants to go home. Now, will he go home right after the convention and open up a seat for Mr. Coleman? Or will he stick around? Will they come up with a strategy? I think they've already delayed this leadership as far as they possibly could and dragged it out as long as they can. And will they drag it out without ever exposing Mr. Coleman in the legislature by saying, well, we'll leave Tom in there for anything that happens in the legislature. He'll just organize as the leader of the party and the premier without a seat. He will be the premier, but he won't have a seat. You don't have to have a seat in the House of Assembly. So there's another question that has to be asked yet, and whether or not then they feel confident enough to expose Mr. Coleman, who will then be Premier Coleman, to the real life of politics instead of the sheltered life he's led so far. But you are right. There needs to be a policy piece and some meat to the bones, other than the criticism, by the way, which is all deserved in my view and all very well placed and all sitting very heavily on the PC party, to the point that the NTV poll shown that they haven't shaken anything yet. There's still 78% of the people say they're not open. We can't get information from them. You can't trust them, and it still looks like people think they should leave.
Yeah, the campaign will really count this time. There's no doubt in my mind. Sometimes it's a foregone conclusion, but I don't think that's the case in 2015. I assume the by-election out in Mr. Marshall's riding his district will be close enough to the general election where it will give Frank Coleman, if indeed he wins, will give Coleman, I would suggest that he probably, unless there's some real star Liberals come out, or possibly NDPers come out to contest him, he'll have a victory under his belt just short of the campaign for the 2015, which may be some of their long-term plan. We'll have to see. I've got to get off to the break, Roger, but it's really great to hear from you here on the show. Glad you're sounding so feisty and on the road to recovery. I would like to talk to you about oversight of Muskrat Falls, otherwise, the role you think ministers should play as opposed to the Crown Corporation, and some of those. If you have an opportunity later on in the week or early next week, I'd appreciate a call.
Yes, I will do, because I've got a great interest in that too, Paddy. And listen, Great to talk to you. Look forward to seeing you on a social occasion sometime soon.
See you soon. Thanks.
You too. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Roger Grimes, former Liberal Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador.